Yo, what's up guys? Josh here from Chang Fitness, where we simplify the process of making gains. So today I'm going to talk about how much rest time should you take between sets. So this is a very common question I get from my online fitness clients. Basically, let's say you just finished a set of bench press. How long should you wait before hitting that second set? So if you don't wait long enough, you're probably going to feel really weak on the second set. And then if you wait too long, you might feel good, but your workouts just take too long. So before we dive in, if you're new here, welcome. I'm a professional natural bodybuilder. I've been lifting for 10 plus years naturally. And my goal is to simplify the process for you guys to make gains, since when I first started out, I made a lot of mistakes. So hopefully I can talk about topics that help you guys streamline your process. So basically in terms of rest time in the gym, there's a key factor you got to consider, which is, are you doing a compound movement or an isolation movement? And basically compound movements refer to movements that require more than one muscle group, something such as squat, bench press, deadlift, lat pull down, rows, seated cable row. Those movements all involve more than one muscle group. In terms of isolation movements, these are lifts that require just one muscle group. So a bicep curl, tricep extension, lateral raise. Pretty much when you're just trying to target one muscle group, those are typically isolation movements. And the reason you got to distinguish between the two movements is because when you're involving more muscle groups, you're going to have to rest longer, versus when you're involving just one muscle group, you might be able to get away with less rest time while still optimizing your performance. And before we get to the recommendation, here's a quick graph I drew out. I'm no artist, so don't roast me in the comments. So essentially we have rest time on the x-axis and then performance on the y-axis. So this is like lifting performance. If you don't rest at all, you can still probably perform reps, but it might just be at 30% of what you're capable of doing. Whereas if you rest too long over here, you're probably going to be at 100%, but then your workouts are going to just take too long. So the sweet spot really is where's that point where you can rest just long enough where you're close to 100% for your lifts, but you're not resting an eternity where you're working out and spending 3 hours in the gym at a time. And going back to the spreadsheet, here are some guidelines to follow. If it's a compound movement, rest 2 to 3 minutes. And then if it's an isolation movement, rest 1 to 2 minutes. And the reason for this is because pretty much for compound movements, it's going to be more fatiguing on the body and just more taxing, since if you're using more than one muscle group, chances are you're probably lifting more weight, right? Think about how much you can squat versus leg extension, or, bench press versus curl. Obviously the loads are totally different, and that's why you need to rest longer for compounds. For isolation movements, you can get away with, 1 to 2 minutes, even sometimes a little less than that. And if you think about it, compound movements, think about powerlifting. Some powerlifters rest 5 to 10 minutes. And that's because for powerlifters, they're trying to optimize their weight moved for each set. Whereas if you think about bodybuilding, a lot of bodybuilders are superset, right? And supersetting is basically when you just do 2+ exercises in a row with no rest in between. So this could be doing a bicep curl and then going straight into tricep dips and then resting after you do the superset. And I would say supersets are good to use if you're trying to save time in the gym. But in terms of whether or not they're optimal, I think they're good for isolation movements, but I would not recommend supersetting compound movements, just because typically compound movements are already more tiring and taxing. So when you start supersetting them on top of each other, you probably just won't be able to lift as much. Because remember guys, at the end of the day, all you got to do is lift more than last time. Implement progressive overload, where each week you're adding weight, adding reps, or even both, and you're going to make gains assuming you're eating enough calories.